All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking some truly hard-earned lessons from a highly dedicated aquarium hobbyist. We're looking at a retrospective simply titled Notes on Fishkeeping, which actually celebrates their 300th blog post. And if you've ever managed a fish room or tinkered with complex aquatic setups, there is a total goldmine of practical wisdom packed in here.
300. Hitting 300 posts on any niche topic takes serious dedication. It shows a level of persistence that most folks just don't reach. But rather than slogging through all 300, we are going to extract the most actionable takeaways from their latest sprint, the last 100 updates. This sprint is especially valuable because we get to watch a hobbyist transition from standard fish keeping right into some pretty advanced, specialized experimentation.
What makes this specific batch of notes so compelling is the time frame. This covers just a few short months, from the 200th post in February 2026 up to the 300th in July 2026. It's totally packed with practical trials, errors, and some real aquatic triumphs. It honestly highlights just how much you can learn in less than half a year if you're actively engaging, observing your tanks every single day, and logging your findings with the community.
So, let's kick things off with our first major theme, the cichlid breeding challenge.
As we all know, cichlids are incredibly rewarding, but their environmental demands? Yeah, they're no joke. Cracking the code to their specific parameters was a massive effort here. It was actually really fascinating to see the focus shift squarely onto smaller varieties, specifically the golden mbuna. The author spent a ton of time actively experimenting with different tank environments just to encourage these gorgeous fish to spawn. It wasn't about just keeping them alive, it was about zeroing in on the exact, perfect conditions that signaled to the fish, hey, it's time to reproduce.
Alongside the golden mbuna, they also poured a lot of energy into the Crepenzi cichlid. Now, the notes are refreshingly honest here. They flat out mention that while actual breeding success with both these species was kind of limited during this window, the process itself yielded immense educational value. The insights they gained into tweaking environmental factors, adjusting the layout, fine-tuning water parameters, reconfiguring the hiding spots, were just invaluable. It is a fantastic reminder that in any advanced setup, a failed experiment usually teaches you way more than an easy success.
Speaking of those environmental tweaks, let's move right along to our second theme, essential tank setup insights.
Now, we all know there's a huge push in the modern hobby toward heavily planted, filterless natural ecosystems, right? But interestingly, this hobbyist firmly concluded that a simple sponge filter remains an absolute necessity. Even with lush flora pulling out those nitrates, the aggressive mechanical filtration and the sheer algae control you get from a sponge filter proved its worth time and time again. It's a classic piece of old-school tech that just works, period.
And that brings us to another major breakthrough in the notes, a completely brilliant budget hack. Look, if you've ever shopped for specialized aquarium soil or gravel, you know it can get absurdly expensive. But the hobbyist noted that using fine construction sand was a delightful discovery. Why? Because it's way more affordable, it's abundant, and the dwarf cichlids absolutely love it. Ditching commercial substrates for construction sand is a literal game changer. The dwarf cichlids go crazy digging and sifting through it, which perfectly replicates their natural behaviors.
Next up, we are shifting our focus from the substrate up into the greenery with theme number 3, aquatic plant survival, comparing indoor versus outdoor setups.
Here, the author learned some really harsh practical truths about natural constraints. Basically, lighting proved to be the ultimate bottleneck. Most plant species they tested simply would not survive long-term without at least 6 hours of full outdoor sun. Because of this, for outdoor balcony setups, plants like duckweed and common salvinia thrived beautifully. But indoors, duckweed stands alone as the undisputed survival champion. If you're tired of battling plant melt in your lower light indoor tanks, the big takeaway here is to maybe stop fighting nature and just embrace the sheer resilience of duckweed.
Taking a step beyond the glass of their own tanks, the retrospective also touched on how they actually source their livestock and information. While regular visits to standard local fish stores definitely happened during these 100 posts, there was this growing, really strong desire to seek out small-scale hobbyist fish farms instead, and the motivation makes total sense. These smaller, specialized breeders give you a chance to learn directly from highly focused experts, and they provide access to select, unique fish species you are just never going to find in a big box store. It's all about deepening that connection to the core community.
So, after 100 posts of tinkering with construction sand, fine-tuning parameters, and dialing in breeding triggers, what exactly is on the horizon? Let's check out our final section, What Comes Next?
The hobbyist pauses here to lay out a really clear, exciting roadmap for the next 100 posts. This is where we get to see how past lessons are directly fueling future ambitions. The upcoming projects are super ambitious. First, they want to push even further into cichlid breeding by exploring completely new species. But to pull this off, they note two major hurdles they have to master: accurate gender identification, which, let's be real, can be notoriously tricky in certain morphs, and navigating the higher pricing of these rare fish. On top of that, they're expanding their outdoor balcony setups into vibrant community tanks. We're talking a really diverse mix featuring bettas, gouramis, swordtails, and guppies. It is a massive, exciting shift from single-species breeding tanks to bustling, multi-species ecosystems.
But perhaps the most relatable, purely human goal on this entire roadmap is something anyone with a passionate hobby deeply understands: the ongoing struggle to just keep things organized. The notes candidly admit they've been pretty wrapped up with other hobbies too, like gardening. So the ultimate challenge for the next 100 posts is simply keeping their fish racks perfectly arranged and their maintenance schedules totally in check. Honestly, managing the physical space of a growing hobby is half the battle.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer. Now, I want to pass the question over to you. Based on all these insights, whether it's swapping to construction sand, relying on trusty sponge filtration in planted tanks, or leaning into the hardiness of duckweed, what species are you planning to conquer next in your own setups? Or, if we're being totally honest with ourselves, is finally organizing your own tangled aquatic setup the real final boss of your hobby journey? Think about how you can apply these 100 posts of wisdom to your own systems today. Catch you next time.